Saluton from BA. This is a Rorschach Multilateral update from the 25th of March 2025, a summary of what's going down in the world's major multilateral institutions. For our first story this week, on Friday the 21st, new data from the International Organization for Migration, or IOM, shows that 2024 has been the deadliest year on record for migrants. Almost 9,000 people lost their lives while attempting to migrate. The report highlights that many deaths occurred on dangerous sea routes, especially in the Mediterranean. A lack of official search and rescue efforts and unsafe conditions contribute to the high numbers. The IOM urged governments to take action to prevent further loss of life and ensure safer migration pathways. The nations that experienced the highest levels of migration in 2024 include Pakistan, with over 1.5 million living due to economic challenges, and Iran, as a record number of students and professionals emigrated, driven by economic hardships and political instability. Our next story is about global health. The Joint UN Programme on HIV/AIDS, or UNAIDS, warned on Thursday the 20th that a growing debt crisis is threatening global health efforts, especially in lower-income countries. As nations struggle with debt repayments, funding for essential health services is at risk. Many countries are being forced to cut budgets, which could reverse progress made in fighting HIV/AIDS. UNAIDS is calling for urgent financial reforms and debt relief to prevent millions from losing access to life-saving care. The organization stressed that investing in health is crucial for long-term stability and development. The Inter-American Development Bank, or IDB, announced on Saturday the 22nd that it is helping Argentina respond to severe flooding in Bahía Blanca in the south of the Buenos Aires province, which took place on the 7th of March. The disaster has displaced around 1,400 people and caused significant damage to homes and infrastructure. Tragically, at least 16 people died. In response, the IDB is redirecting existing funds to provide immediate relief and support recovery efforts. The assistance will focus on rebuilding essential services and helping affected people get back on their feet. The IDB emphasizes its commitment to working with Argentina to address the tragedy and strengthen resilience against future disasters. On another note, on Thursday the 20th, the Financial Times reported that Europe's top military powers are working on a plan to take on more defense responsibilities from the US over the next 5 or 10 years. The UK, France, Germany, and Nordic countries are leading discussions aimed at reshaping NATO. European countries are boosting defense spending, but officials acknowledge it will take years to reduce US reliance. Some believe that Trump's stance, which pushes European nations to spend more, is only rhetoric, while others question whether the US remains a trustworthy ally. Key focus areas include air defense, logistics, and communication systems. Going back to health for a bit, the World Health Organization, or WHO, warned on Thursday the 20th about major disruptions in tuberculosis services worldwide, putting millions at risk. These interruptions, partially due to funding issues connected to the US leaving the WHO in January, have led to increased infections and deaths, reversing years of progress. The WHO is urging countries to restore and strengthen their tuberculosis programs, emphasizing the need for sustained funding and improved healthcare access. Without immediate action, the global fight against tuberculosis could face significant setbacks and endanger countless lives. For context, tuberculosis is a highly infectious disease that primarily affects the lungs but can affect the body's other organs, leading to severe illness and death. The disease spreads through the air, which means crowded areas increase the risk of outbreaks. On Friday, the 21st, the European Commission announced a delay in unveiling its 2040 climate target proposal, missing a deadline it had set for the first quarter of 2025. This delay raises concerns about the EU's ability to meet its long-term climate objectives, including achieving net zero emissions by 2050. The proposed target aims for a 90% reduction in net greenhouse gas emissions by 2040 compared to 1990 levels. Officials emphasize the importance of thorough discussions to ensure the proposal's effectiveness despite the setback. In updates from the Middle East, on Thursday the 20th, Eli Sharabi, an Israeli who had been held captive by Hamas for almost 500 days, addressed the UN Security Council, recounting enduring severe conditions, including starvation and beatings. Sharabi revealed the personal tragedies he faced, learning of his brother's death during captivity and discovering upon release that his wife and daughters had been killed in a Hamas attack. He urged the UN to ensure proper aid distribution and to work towards freeing the remaining hostages. In oil news on Thursday the 20th, the Organization for Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC, announced new oil output cuts for certain countries to address overproduction. These cuts will range from about 200,000 to about 400,000 oil barrels per day and continue until June 2026. Iraq, Kazakhstan, and Russia will make some of the reductions. This follows recent overproduction, notably from Kazakhstan, which caused dissatisfaction from other members within the group. Despite these changes, OPEC will proceed with a planned increase of oil production by a little over 100,000 barrels per day starting in April. The plan to cut production and also increase it in April is confusing, but OPEC sometimes makes similar moves. They reduce production in some countries that overproduced. At the same time, the planned production surge applies broadly. This approach allows OPEC to stabilize prices while gradually restoring output with control. In Africa, on Sunday the 23rd, a delegation from the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, arrived in Liberia to mediate the ongoing leadership crisis within the government, which centers on the legitimacy of the majority bloc's leadership. The delegation aims to resolve the dispute through discussions with key political figures, the President and the Supreme Court, whose hearings are scheduled soon. The outcome of these hearings will shape Liberia's political future. Shifting gears, on Thursday the 20th, Pakistan officially accepted the World Trade Organization's Fisheries Subsidies Agreement, advancing global efforts to protect marine resources and support coastal livelihoods. This brings the total to 94 country acceptances, with 17 more needed for the agreement to take effect. The agreement targets harmful fishing subsidies and supports sustainable practices, particularly in developing nations. The organization urges other members to follow suit to strengthen the global push for ocean health. In other news, on Sunday the 23rd, UNICEF expressed shock over the increase in child abuse and violence in Bangladesh. The agency condemned the rising number of crimes against children, including abductions and trafficking. UNICEF called for stronger legal protections, proper child welfare systems, and urgent government intervention. This growing trend of abuse has drawn global concern, especially as children in vulnerable communities are at greater risk. The organization emphasized the need for collective action to ensure children's safety. For our final story, we've got an update on international finance. On Monday the 24th, Kenya applied for a new lending program from the International Monetary Fund. The government is facing financial challenges due to high debt servicing costs, and the new program is aimed at securing remaining funds to support economic recovery. Currently, Kenya is dealing with significant financial challenges marked by a high debt compared to its GDP, going well beyond what is normally seen as healthy for an economy. Additionally, the country faces substantial Eurobond repayments totaling billions of dollars. These financial strains have led to public unrest, including deadly protests over tax increases and controversies surrounding borrowing practices. And that's it for this week. Thank you for joining us. Are you listening to us on Spotify? Did you know that you can leave comments or questions in the episode? Click on the comment box. But don't worry, the comments are private by default, and we won't publish them. If you want us to get back to you, share your email. See you next week.